Hi, my name's Liz Driscoll. I'm with North Carolina Cooperative Extension's 4-H Youth Development Program. Today, I'd like to introduce you to a curriculum that we have for high school age students called Soil to Seed. This curriculum focuses on protecting water quality by exploring the concepts of soil erosion, sedimentation, and turbidity. And one of the ways I'd like to introduce you to this topic is by digging into one of the activities that's in the first lesson. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin to do an experiment where we can understand the mechanics of soil erosion. Soil erosion happens in two parts, detachment and transportation. The first part, detachment, is when water, rain, somehow impacts the soil and that soil is shattered from the rest of it. And so once that soil particle is loose, more rain or water will come and it'll move that soil down slope. And so we don't want that to happen, but in order for youth to understand this idea, they're going to be able to explore and discover this idea for themselves. So to begin, let's first get a couple of different types of soil. I have here a coarse sand, I have a medium-sized soil particles in kind of a loamy soil, and then I have a clay soil. So get different types of soil and start by taking a scoop of each. You don't need very much soil at all, and put it in the center of kind of these rough-drawn bullseyes. So we have a little bit of our sand, a little bit of our loam, and lastly, a little bit of our clay soil. The next material you need are different sized ways to drop water onto your soil particles. So I have a turkey baster here that can simulate a really heavy rainfall event, so something where the water drops are really large. And then I have two different smaller pipettes that you can use to try to recreate maybe a more gentle rain, but still can cause soil erosion nonetheless. So we're going to start with this medium-sized pipette and grab some water. And what the students can do is they're going to start off with a dry soil, and I want them to notice what happens when you add water to the dry soil. Where do the particles go? Do they stay in place? Do they move off of the pile? And then as they add more water and the soil becomes saturated, they can begin to notice what happens to the soil particles now. Do they move farther? Do they stay close? And they can do this for each of the different soils. What we can see with the sand in particular right now is that it's a really coarse, very heavy soil particle. So even with a lot of rain, soil's not going to move very far. One other variable the students can decide to change is not only the different size of pipette, but the different height that you hold the water can impact where that water goes. And the sand right now is really saturated, so some of those soil particles are starting to move a little farther. Next, let's move on to the loamy soil. And at this point, you can ask the students to make a prediction. Do they think the soil particles are going to move farther than sand or not as far? And have them observe and see what happens. And what they should see right away is that these soil particles are moving a lot farther. They're lighter and they can travel farther. In this case, our rough-drawn concentric circles are roughly the space of an inch, and so they can begin to measure how far the soil particles go when the soil is dry versus when the soil is saturated. Lastly, let's see what we have for our clay soil. And I'm trying to hold the pipette about the same height, although that's something to vary. And we should be able to see that the clay soil moves the farthest, especially as that soil begins to get really saturated. So what we know about soil erosion is that it can vary by different types of soil. Some soils more susceptible to erosion than others, and once that soil detaches and more rain comes, it'll wash all the particles down slope, and it will wash it right into our waterways. And in fact, soil is the number one pollutant in our waterways in North Carolina. And so after this, you can begin to process with the youth and ask them, well, what is it that you noticed? What did you observe? What did you change? What happened after you changed a certain variable? And get them to sort of make their own discovery about soil erosion, if you will. From here, we can lead into a discussion of, have you ever seen this anywhere where you are? Folks that live in Agricultural communities might notice that if some land is mismanaged, if there's not a cover crop or something to protect the soil, that soil gets eroded. In other areas, like an urban area where there's a lot of development and clearing of land, if that soil isn't protected, then it's going to wash right away. And when we lose that soil, we lose all of those nutrients and all of the productivity that that soil can have. So hopefully this is an activity that you can use to engage students in understanding a little bit about soil erosion, and then the rest of the curriculum moves on and helps youth understand, okay, now that I know how it happens, what can I begin to do about it?